Let me help you neutralize all polarization and take a look at our current global circumstance from the point of view of the unified field, which wants to experience everything, which doesn't discriminate on different points of view on what is happening. So I'm going to be talking about masks, no masks. I'm going to be talking about coronavirus, the different emotional experiences people are having, the points of view, programmed, reactive, all of it. So number one, I want you to remember that a very basic human instinct is to preserve life, the survival instinct. You know, if you think you're dying, let's say you got stung by a poisonous jellyfish, and you never heard, apparently you can pee on where you got stung, and it can relieve the sting for certain jellyfish. Imagine you never heard that, and you're in so much pain, and somebody's like, let me piss on you. And imagine it was on your face. They're like, let me just piss on your face. It's gonna help, it's gonna help. You're in so much pain, you're in so much fear and survival reaction for your life. You're like, just do it. Do anything, help me. You gotta understand, for a lot of us, we are in that modality and we love life. So somebody who's coming at the point of view of the coronavirus from a fear reaction, a survival instinct, you know, that person loves life just as much as the rest of us. That person is human, having an experience. And the unified field does not say that that experience is wrong or bad. So it's completely valid to have that emotional responsive fear and to basically jump on whatever anyone tells you to do because of that instinct to preserve life. So that's the first perspective. Just want to validate that. The second perspective is the perspective of not being in fear, but coming from the place of, okay, now we understand some things. I've heard it from the news. I've heard it from different sources. And I've heard that the way that I can best support from my heart to love my fellow man, my fellow woman, my fellow people is to wear a mask and to do social distancing and do all of this stuff. And that's coming from a place of love for some people. If they're not coming from Camp 1, in Camp 1 we'll wear a mask and do social distancing and all of that as well, just coming from that space of reaction, like, I'll do anything. Second option is coming from a little bit more of an elevated space. It's less reactive, but it's still like, I want to do what's right. I want to help. And I've got to take action. I've got to help people. This is a global situation. And this is what I've heard. So I'm taking action from that. And you want to remember that if you're in that point of view, just like with the first one, then, you know, following all of the procedures and rules to a T makes perfect sense from that perspective. So that's exactly what feels congruent to you. And you got to remember that that's truly coming from a place of love if you're in the second boat. It's coming from a place of wanting to do the best to support other people. Legitimately, like, I don't want other people to get sick. I want everybody to be healthy. I want to play my part. I want to do everything I can. I want to make sure that this world continues and we get back to normal as soon as possible. So I'm willing to do whatever I need to do for now. And I don't care if I sacrifice, social distance, isolation, wearing a mask. It's not that big a deal. I want what's best for humanity. It's coming from love. So I'm just helping you neutralize the polarization. Now, the third position is somebody who's looked into the death certificate situation, started to look into how comorbidities are often coupled with the coronavirus. People die of cancer, their body is tested after, and then they show up positive for coronavirus, and then they get listed as a COVID death. So in this way, somebody's looking at this and they're saying, well, these numbers are inflated. And they're looking at the PCR test, they're looking at this testing device, which is known to give false positives, and they're kind of forming their new opinion. And they're like, I don't buy this. I don't want to do this. When somebody's coming from this own independent thought point of view, that person is thinking, I want to do what's best as well. I want to embody love. I want to share and vibrate love. And I want to stand in my power and not just be in reaction. So in that space, if somebody wants to be a sovereign citizen and wants to say, hey, I have an exemption from the mask, and walk in and, not really respect the norms of 1 and 2, then that's their way of expressing their love, their freedom. You got to understand, everybody's just doing what makes sense from their point of view. So somebody in that point of view is saying, hey, I see some corruption at play. I'm looking at the global situation. I'm seeing that this is actually a step along the path towards a one world government, global technocracy, a surveillance world where everybody's surveilled, and coronavirus is just a cover for that. So when somebody looks at that point of view and they see a bigger picture, what they see is a bigger picture, then from their point of view, they're doing the most loving thing for humanity so that we do not go to this surveillance technocracy, so that we aren't surveilled all the time and basically sucked into somebody's manifestation of domination and control. You got to understand, that's a completely valid point of view. When that's the information and that's the research you've done, you're doing the thing that makes the most sense to you. The fourth position is of somebody who has done the research, who's looked at all of these different sides, and they decided that, hey, I'm maybe a bit more of the empath bent. And in that empathic state, I don't want to start polarization. I don't want to walk into a grocery store and say I'm exempt and not wear a mask, kind of walk through like a proud lion and trigger people and not be able to have a conscious, open-minded, open-hearted conversation. What that person decides to do, this is perspective number 4, is they want to go in undercover. They're going to wear the mask. They're going to do all the social distancing practices. They're going to do everything. But they're going to internally understand that they don't agree with it and hold the energy of open-hearted, open-minded, energetic space so they can have conversations with people and talk about these different points of view. You're like, hey, you also know that there is this other point of view, basically looking critically at the measures going on with the coronavirus, and that the policies actually might be doing more harm than good. They actually might be devastating society down the line. So somebody from this perspective is doing what feels best in their heart. They're very empathic, they're very sensitive. They don't want to have these triggered conversations. They want to stay in a nice light mood, and they want to have open-minded, open-hearted conversations. And they know that if they go into a grocery store, if they go into a public space, that their vibration is emanating and speaking more than their words, more than their face would be, because everything is energy. So this perspective is completely valid, and nothing is lost by following that if that feels resonant in your heart. And lastly, the perspective of one who wants to sort of sit out of the whole debacle altogether, somebody who just wants to take this time to go inward on a solo retreat of sorts, to introspect and just order local organic food to your house. Just order everything you need to your house, farm to table, or go visit farms, and not really even engage, or to the least as possible, with the sort of pandemic. Really just staying in your own energy and going inwards to help heal yourself. If you're focusing primarily on healing yourself, you're also doing that which is of highest love. And from that perspective, it is not a cop-out. Although all of these perspectives can be judged from other perspectives, that perspective sees like, no, the highest service I can do to help everybody to love is to heal myself. When I am whole and healed, the vibrations I emanate are of that of wholeness and healedness, and that ripples out into the field. So the way that the unified field sees this situation is that every perspective is valid. And that's how is a master connector. If you're able to see from the space of the unified field, if you're able to kind of do your best to step back and to see from God's eyes. Source wanted to have all these experiences and wanted to be the witnessing consciousness behind everyone. So every perspective is valid. And as we elevate to that, there is no trigger. We are neutralized. When you are a neutralized being, you are of highest service to humanity, which means you can talk with anybody and you don't get triggered. You can talk with anybody and you don't get reactive. because you understand and validate every single point of view. That is the space of energetic integrity. That is the space of understanding everybody has a right to believe what they believe. And you, as a sovereign being, get to make a choice for how you will express and the reality and timeline you align to. Understand everybody has different karma. Everybody has a different energetic propensity for what types of things their soul needs to learn, what type of lessons they need. Maybe they need to go into some space of fear and learn something about that. Or maybe they need to be in any one of these perspectives. Understand, none is more valid than the next, but there are higher vibrational options. And essentially what you got to do is just choose that which vibrates to you in your heart. So I've laid out 5 perspectives here. Try to give a quick overview. Coronavirus, understand you don't have to judge other people who do something different than you. It's really about finding the expression which resonates with your heart, holding that as the highest love, and trusting that as you do so, you're walking your own path and blessing everyone else, even if they don't agree. And in that, a lot can be done. Just going to return quickly to perspective number 3. That person which decides not to wear the mask and maybe not even engage in social distancing protocol and whatnot, maybe if they're even advocating and sharing information passionately, there's a way that, for each perspective, there's a way it can be done, which is very polarizing, and a way that it can be done that is quite neutralizing. So it's just a matter of how you do it. Same with veganism, for example. You want to show people slaughterhouse footage, you got to understand people have subconscious defense mechanisms. If you're pushing, people will push back. So there's a way to do it to hold yourself in center where you can expose and share information, if that's your calling, that reveals our global situation, maybe what's going on behind the scenes. So I love you so much. A huge overview. And understand everybody's just doing what makes sense to them from their perspective. And I understand that as humans, we have a very hard time allowing people to have a different perspective than ours. We have a very hard time not trying to convert people. But the higher consciousness, free will of this universe allows all perspectives to play out and manifest. And understand that even if it seems like the world's going in one way, if you align to a different perspective, you experience a different timeline. So essentially, those of us who resonate with perspectives 3, 4, and 5, the ones that I mentioned here, we can actually manifest our own sort of coherent reality based in those energies. So yeah, I could go on for a long time on this, but I think this is the main point. Just want to give you that. I just want to help you to break free of polarizing, break free of judgment, and to step into a space of truly validating the emotional experiences people have, all the way from fear to love. Out.